When I say topic, it just means the several units. So we've done unit 1, we've done unit 2 on definitions. You see that unit 3 engaged the literary errors, ambiguity, equivocation, the disputes, and what have you. Unit 4 of your textbook is not substantive content. So we skip to unit 5, which will now be our topic 4. Okay, so this is lecture 4. We are projecting now, and I'm using the slides. Then the overview is there for you to engage. Perhaps I will just ask one of you to read. Okay. And I see 4 hands up. So anyone who wants to read amongst you, I don't know if Erica Gelly would want to. I'll allow your mic. Then you can quickly unmute and read. We'll work that way. Go ahead, Erica.
Think of an example where someone is criticizing on moral grounds the legitimacy or justness of a civil statute or a law. Imagine a situation where there seems to be a conflict between something that is an accepted practice on legal grounds, but is regarded as unacceptable on moral grounds. These examples and situations illustrate that there must be more than one sense we attribute to the notion of law. Should I continue? Madam, to avoid being fooled by switching connotations without indication, this session introduces the critical thinker to the different senses of law. And please, should I continue? Factual statements are expressions that describe the way the world is. Whether this means that what this means is that they give a report of the way the world is as we experience them with our senses. We call them empirical because they are expressions derived from experiences or observations, and they are verifiable. Value judgments, on the other hand, are expressions that describe or evaluate the way the world or things.
My lady, that one is not described, it's prescribed. I'm trying not to interrupt you. That's why when you talk, I keep quiet and keep projecting. Look at it very well, read it. Okay.
Okay. Value judgments, on the other hand, are expressions that prescribe or evaluate the way the world or things or someone should or ought to be. We call them normative because they are state standards or norms to describe, to prescribe, or evaluate an action or behavior or something.
Please read the last one again. Please read the last paragraph again. That small paragraph there. Read it again.
Okay. We call them normative because they state standards or norms to prescribe or evaluate action or behavior or something.
Well done. So those were all recaps. The session overview here, we are discussing unit 3 is the empirical versus the normative. Empirical versus normative. These are big terms describing two ways of thinking of the word law. Okay? You can think of law, regularities, what have you, in the normative sense or the empirical sense. Okay. Now, for you to just understand what the purpose is, there's an overview there pulled out of the textbook and put there for you to see like that. Okay. Sometimes we judge people or we raise objections about people's actions, and we're just dealing with moral or civil matter or legal and so on and so forth. Now, this unit requires that you know and remember the difference between statements that are factual versus those that are value judgment. It's just a repetition. If you look into the textbook, it's just repeating what we saw in Unit 1 as a way of preparing you for the distinction made between empirical laws versus what's the other one? Normative laws. Okay, so you will see the empirical versus the normative in the subsequent unit section of the unit. So they revised a bit of the factual and value to help you remember. That's what Madam just read. When we say a statement is a factual one, it is only describing, decode, describing the way the world is. Take note of those particularities. So I asked Madam to re-mention them if she missed it. They are important. We saw it in Unit 1 together. Okay, factual statement describe the world as it is out there. By now, I'm sure you would know how important this expression is. When we are even looking at verbal dispute versus substantive disagreement, it comes up. When you're looking at open text church versus well-defined church, it comes up. When you do deduction versus induction, this distinction will pull out its neck again. So you have to see what it is that we call factual in nature when we are informing you. And the other one that we will describe as value judgment or a prescription, not a description. They are not the same. One says what the world is. And so by your senses, observation, using your 5 senses, you're able to ascertain truth or falsity. Take note of all those keywords up there. Look at that factual statement. You use your 5 senses to verify them. Observation-based experience. Empirical is the technical way. So those who did logical truth versus empirical truth, you'll see that that is what is happening there. That one is the language of it versus the observational language. Then we'll be dealing with definitions, logical structure, whatever, logic. Versus empirical. Empirical means your 5 senses. We saw it earlier. Now here we are contrasting the empirical with what? The normative. It's just like the contrasting factual statement versus value judgment, people. And some of you would already have seen the difference. So Madam just showed us a reminder of factual statement. The second half, though, says value judgment do not describe, but they do prescribe. Before you write, scribe means a writer, an author. Before you put it down, you already had a view, your prescription. The other one is a description. It is in the object. You decode it. You take it out. So that is where you get it from. That's why factual statements have a certain level of objectivity to it. It is the object that has it, not the subject observing. And when we come to value judgment, it is a prescription or an evaluation, a judgment, a value, place value, evaluation of how the world, not how the world is, people. Value judgment talks about how the world should be or ought to be. Remember our verbal dispute, substantive disagreement discussion the last time. That is what we are capturing here. And so you would see that we'll call value judgment normative because they are stating the standards or the norm to prescribe or evaluate an action. They are telling you how it ought to be done, the norm, what should be done or what must be done. Now on my screen, look everyone, respectfully, if you can. The normative and the empirical. I normally use one slide to put everything together and then refer you to the textbook to go and read the jumping around per specific type of normative law. But on your screen now, you see that all the other laws in Unit 5, the textbook, okay, in Unit 5 that you are to look at, customary laws, we are going to walk ourselves through. That's why I picked this slide. The customary laws, civil laws, mathematical law, divine codes, what have you, social norms, moral codes that are there. They are all supposed to be certain forms of regularity. Law means a regulation, guiding how things are being done. Principles or regulations, we'll read them in a short while. Okay, all those laws there are normative. They prescribe how it must be done or should be done. It's a prescription. The only one that is an exception there in those laws highlighted that I've mentioned is what? The scientific law, which is also called natural law from nature. What about it makes it different from the others? The laws of nature are empirical. They are factual in nature. They are observation-based. It is what you have observed about nature all this while. You've seen that whenever women get pregnant, they put to bed in 9 months' time. That's the observation. So yesterday, Yaya got pregnant. She delivered in 9 months' time. The week before, Auntie Adwa too. The other one, the other Auntie Abna. And so by our observation of it, how did we observe? Factually, we looked at what is there and saw that that is how it has been all this while. And so we presume that then if Nancy too is pregnant today, then she's likely, look at my language, going to also deliver in 9 months' time. You will see why we call empirical laws predictions. They are only predicting. Why? Based on what we have observed in the past. That is where induction is. Takes us there. We see a matter of probability, chances. So the meteorologist's prediction about tomorrow that it will rain, or those who check our earthquake stuff will tell you that, okay, looks, it's likely that this so and so place, it's likely that we can get earthquake of so and so and so. It's based on what they've observed about the setup there, whatever rocks that are underneath, and then patterns that have been observed in the past. That's science, natural science. Okay, so it is empirical in nature. The laws that are grounding such research are empirical. That simply means they are observation-based. They are based on patterns of the past. And so you predict based on what you have observed in the past. And then you make those regularities. So the regulation, the law here is that it is a law that women who get pregnant deliver in 9 months. The law that whenever you throw a ball up, it will come down. It's a law that the law of flotation. When you put something that is blah blah blah, it will float on the surface. These are all scientific, observation based. We could throw a ball up and it won't come down. That is what happened when people went to space for the first time, I think. They noticed that gravitation doesn't work here. On Earth, the laws are, when we get to unit 7, you see the the implications of these laws that we are talking about. Look at, you put a pen on the pool and it drops into the bottom of that pool. But if you put a whole shipload of human beings on the sea, it doesn't sink. Have you thought about that? The laws that we know help us to navigate the world. So when we know another law, we use the other law to cancel this other law, and then we progress. Okay, so the whole aeroplane can take off. I'm showing the implication. That's what we discuss in unit 7. Whole aeroplane, very heavy. The force of gravity doesn't push it down. Is there a reason why? There's another law we know. So what the scientists, the observation-based study is doing is what? Is continually trying to investigate, to discover. Look on the screen so that you make meaning of the slides that have been shared for you. The scientist, natural scientist, is working to discover your screen now, dear. Patterns, uniformities, regularities that are supposedly already in the world, natural world. That is what natural science is doing. Doing what? Discovering. The thing is covered. So it's only discovering, uncovering what is already there, the patterns that water conducts electricity, that fish, look on your screen. I'm referencing examples on your screen. That fish live only in water. They can't survive outside of water. How would you know that? It is already there, it's nature. But you do investigations and see patterns. What are the patterns you saw? Whenever you took a fish out of the water, about after 5 minutes, it died. You notice that you drop a certain kind of bird in the skies, and then whilst it's coming down, it opens its wings and flies. See, wow. So it's a bird after all. So there are certain patterns you observe based on which you draw generalizations. And those general claims become law-like. They are like laws. So that whenever a woman gets pregnant, you are expecting that the child must be born in the 9th month. But the child may not come. The child may come earlier, but the place is too hot, or may stay late and come in the 10th month because the place is cool for that child. You don't bring the child out by force. You must obey the law of science. But why are you staying? No, no, no. That law is like a law, it's a prediction on your screen. So even though they are laws and therefore they have to be obeyed, when there is a deviation from it, take note, listen to the technicalities of it. When there is a deviation, like a child who will not come into the world in the 9th month, but wants to stay even beyond that, you cannot, look on your screen, a deviation is a counter evidence, an opposite to the fact. If there is that, you change the law. You don't change the deviation. Okay? Every planet moves around the sun in an elliptical orbit. That is, all the planets are moving around the sun, round in circles. You found a planet that will not move around. You have to go and change your law. What you think you have discovered, that every planet moves around this. You have to go and say it's not every planet that does that. Not knowing there are planets that do not move around the sun. Okay? So that is the nature of natural laws. They are empirical, means they are not, you can't enforce it if there is a deviation. But what about all the other types of laws that we call normative? Normative laws are not like empirical laws. They're not prediction. They're telling you how things must be done or how things should be done. We'll read everything from what I have said so far to make sure we have mopped up very well. I'll keep scrolling whilst you read, my lady. Okay. Someone else wants to read. Maybe let me take Papa. Okay. Bless Yaira. Bless you do a good job for us. So Bless, I'll disable your mic and I allow your mic and then you go ahead. Go ahead, Bless.
And value judgment. Therefore, helps us to understand general claims of toolkits, normative principles, which indicate how things must be or how they should
No,
be.
my lady, Bless, I think your background is a bit noisy. Oh. Are you using
Ah,
a mouth?
yes, please.
Remove it and speak directly and let's see if it's fine. So we are recording for the benefit of others. Go ahead and
Okay.
let me see. Let's see if it's better.
This, okay. The distinction
Yes,
between
this is
factual
better.
statement and value judgment, therefore, helps us to understand general claims of two kinds, normative principles, which indicate how things must be or how they should be, versus empirical generalizations, which supposedly report how things are in fact. Rules of logic and critical thinking are normative in the sense that they capture how we ought to think and not how we actually do think. I'm done, please. The different sense of law. There is no one there is no one definite law, but rather different notions, depending on the context of usage. The word law can mean a natural law, civil law, customary law, moral law, law of reasoning. Mathematically, law or defined law. Law is a system of rules or general principles that
Auntie,
govern the nature.
Auntie Bless,
Yes, madam.
read the mathematical side very well, okay? I don't want to interrupt you, so read it
Sure.
well.
Okay, okay. There is no one definition for the word law, but rather different notions, depending on the concept of usage. The word law can mean a natural law, civil law, customary law, moral law, law of reasoning, mathematical law, or defined law. Law is a system of rules or general principles that govern the nature of things or the way individuals are supposed to behave. Laws are expressed in the form of statements. Some laws are descriptive and others are prescriptive.
So
Natural
the
laws
second
are
slide is,
called
I'm so
scientific
sorry.
laws,
I'm so sorry.
refer
So
to
the second
statements
one,
that express laws about.
Auntie Bless. So the second one is prescriptive. Okay, some laws are descriptive and others are prescriptive. You remember?
Okay,
So go ahead now.
yeah. Natural laws, also called scientific laws, refer to statements that express law about nature, living things, rivers, celestial bodies, etc. They are defined as statements that aim to describe the regularities or uniformities in the patterns of events or features of things we observe around us. They are formed based on our past experiences. For instance, we observe that at any point in time, when a fish is taken out of water for a maximum of 5 minutes, it dies. So we conclude that all fish survives in water has a statement that expresses an attribute or a property that applies to all fish anywhere, anytime.
Excellent. Well done. I was trying to prompt that the taking that you see there should be taken. It's a typo. Okay, so taken. It should be taken. Uniform. What's the past participle, right? En. Now, all that I have said so far, yes, is what Bless has read to mop up nicely for us. Any questions? I want to allow all microphones, please. If I don't like teaching this way, because what it does is it's a bit restrictive, but that is the only way you can sometimes have decorum. Okay, so I'm allowing the mics now so that people can feel free. I mean, not like you are in prison or in chains and what have you. Let's get questions from you if you have any. Moadine, go ahead if you have a question.
Okay, madam. Please, about the empirical statements. Are they arguable or are they always true or
We are
factual?
talking laws. We are talking laws. So the laws that are empirical in nature would be those that describe. That's what Madam just read. Laws that are describing how the world is. So whenever you throw a ball up, it will come down. Whenever the clouds gather, it rains. Whenever a woman gets pregnant, she delivers in 9 months. Whenever you take fish out of water, the fish will die. Such statements are only describing what you have observed over the years. They are not telling you how you should do things or how you must do things. They are only describing how things are. And that is why it can fail. It's a prediction. Predictions can fail. Why? Because how you've seen things in the past may not be how tomorrow will be. The clouds could gather, the meteorologists would tell us it will rain, and that day shines like something. And it is not because perhaps they didn't do a good job, it's because they are still discovering. The medical doctor may say, whenever you have XYZ symptoms in your body, you will die the next day. And there could be someone who will have it, and then the next day the person is even stronger. Then science would have progressed because what they knew in the past is not what has happened. So I showed you, and I think Madam is yet to read that. When we have scientific laws which are not normative, remember we say they are empirical, what happens to them? Look at natural law statements have no exceptions, are therefore called law-like. But there is no way to be absolutely certain that such statements will always be true. Okay?
Yes.
Because there can be what? Counterfactual. You can have a counter, an opposite, what's the thing? An opposite instance of it. Now, if that happens, you go change your law.
Okay.
But for normative laws, if someone goes contrary or something goes contrary to the norm, we don't change the laws. We don't change the laws. What we do is to change the person. We let the person conform to the law. That's why we give you wrong. When you say 7 plus 3 is equal to 1,000. You know someone who can say 7 plus 3 is equal to 73. we'll give you wrong to tell you that you are wrong. You have to conform to the law. This is how it must be done, etc. If you go and take someone's wife, a daughter, without doing the customary right, they will make you conform. How? The girl dies, you will marry the corpse. That's how you should obey. So all those laws in your textbook there that have been highlighted here, apart from the empirical, do not permit of exceptions. They don't allow you counterfactuals. You understand me? The normative one says, if you deviate, we will let you conform to the law. We will not change the law to suit you. But for natural laws, when it happens that what the law says is not what has happened in observation, we rather revise the law to accommodate the exception. So all green plants use sunlight for photosynthesis. All fish live in water. If we should encounter a fish that doesn't live in water, we will come and remember. First, we said all birds fly. Some birds don't fly now. We know that.
Yes.
So that is how it is. So even whether it is sound or valid or whatever, it has to be revised. In the past, it wasn't so. There are flying objects now that are not birds. Where will you place bat, for example? It's stuff like that. So empirical, yes, empirical laws, like the ones you have to the left of your screen now, can change. The laws can admit of exceptions. They are like laws, but because there's always a possibility of a counter evidence, look down there, that makes them false. They are like predictions, are projected another slide now. And if it's a prediction, then it can fail. All right, let's have one of you read this. I would ask someone.
Let me read.
Go ahead.
Thank
you. Go ahead.
Let me read.
Oh dear. Somebody said, let me read. Let the gentleman read. If I wait, let the gentleman read. Yes, I'm the one. Read.
Okay. Natural law. Natural laws are disguised predictions. They predict about future realities. The statement, all metals expand when heated, means that if you come across any metallic object and you heat it, then expect it to expand. But what if you discover a new metal and it does not expand upon heating it? Then it will make the statement, all metals expand when heated, to be false. Scientific laws always depend upon evidence, and they are predictions. They may turn out to be false, so we call them law-like statements or hypotheses. Notes: since they describe regularities and uniformities in the patterns of events around us, they are empirical.
Very good. I was speaking with my mic off. So, my dear friends, this is what I have explained that your friend just read. So we are sure we have mopped up.
I should show you a screen record.
Taufik, you just read like this. Ose, your mic is disabled. You and your girlfriend have disabled your microphone. Maybe she's your sister too. There. Don't do that. Don't say that you are having a class. So what just read it. Take note. Their predictions. That means they can fail. They describe how things are. It's based on what? Factual observations of the past. They can turn out to be false, and if it turns out to be false, it's the law that you change. That means they do not admit of counterfactual. So that is the point there. I said they do not admit. They admit of counterfactuals. When there's a counterfactual, the law is changed to admit of it. For the normative, it doesn't admit of counterfactual. Okay. Now the rest we are going to do is just to read through and know the various versions of laws that over there, apart from the empirical one. All the others are normative, from civil to customary to mathematical laws to all the several types of laws that the slides have captured for you are all normative in nature. If I catch the person whose microphone is on, Jessica, why are you troubling me? Mute your thing. I disabled them, crap. All right, so someone to read this for me and then we are good to go.
So,
everyone is muted now, but your mics are not disabled. I want some quietness. See, when we do that, look at the background. It's very quiet so that we can get a very good, crisp, recording for you. I want to take Papa Kwame now. Papa Kwame. Can
Yes,
you read
madam.
for me? Yes, Papa Kwame, go ahead. Let me see if I've moved slide. Yeah, so we are reading the other types of laws there that are normative. I'll just be scrolling once you read. I've said everything there. It's just for you to know which law will cause civil and which one will cause statutory. Those of you who want to do law, this is very good for you. So engage it. Civil laws are not statutory. So there are certain cases when you take it to court, it's a civil matter. It's not a criminal issue. It doesn't generate too much. The state versus Ejabintu, who has enjoyed his own daughter. It's a criminal matter. But the two sisters I told you who went to scratch their faces at the top over Johnny Bravo, their matter is a civil thing. If they go, they'll let them all come home and get coding and APC and it's sorted. If you go and open your mouth to a certain degree and talk about treasonable matters, it's a criminal issue. It's not you versus your friend, it's the state versus you. So those are the ones that we want to enlighten you on with the rest. They are all normative, meaning they do not allow for exceptions. You can't have your own way around it. The law forces you to conform. If you do not, we will show you how to, by what? Prescriptive sanctions, depending on which specific type of law we are dealing with. Even the moral ones, we use our eyebrows and our chuckling to tell you that you can't wear bikini to lecture hall. Even if police will not arrest you, we use our eyebrows and our chuckling to put you in place. So all the ones we are going to read are what? Normative in nature. I'll just be scrolling. That's why I'm talking plenty. Boss, go ahead.
Okay. Civil law and statutory law. Civil laws and statutory laws are man-made laws that represent the legal instruments that governments of states use to regulate the behaviors of citizens. They prescribe how citizens ought to behave in specific circumstances. They are laws backed by force since they come with sanctions. Note, they are prescriptive statements since they express what one should do or must not do, so they are normative. Examples: commercial laws, tax laws, constitutional statutes, land tenure regulations. Land tenure regulations, rules for electoral processes, criminal laws in response to rape, stealing, murder, manslaughter, assault. Number 7, human rights laws, traffic laws, interstate laws, etc. Note, if these laws are broken by individuals, the individuals are rather punished. Violations do not make the laws falsified and for that matter must be changed. The laws still remain and sanctions are carried out. This is what makes it different from natural laws. The sanctions attached are what makes them laws to be obeyed by all citizens. Example, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. Article 276, like clause 1. A chief shall not take part in active party politics, and any chief wishing to do so and seeking election to parliament shall abdicate his tool or skin. Notwithstanding clause 1 of this article and paragraph C of the clause 3 of article 94 of this constitution, a chief may be appointed to any public office for which he is otherwise qualified. Customary law. The laws, practices, customs of indigenous and local communities which are intrinsic and central part of the way of life of these communities. Customary laws are embedded in the culture and values of a community or society. They govern acceptable standard of behavior and are actively enforced by members of the community. Most customary laws deal with standards of the community that have been long established in a given locale. Generally, customary laws are not written but are transmitted through oral tradition and practice. Just like civil laws or statutory laws, they are man-made and also have sanctions attached to them to regulate behaviors and members of a particular community, clan, or lineage. The system of authority that enforces the customary laws are chiefs, clan heads, etc. Examples: taboos like incest, not farming or fishing on a particular day, the traditional customary marriage, acknowledgement of chiefs and traditional custodians of lands, traditional inheritance systems and marriage systems, etc. Note: customary laws are also normative.
All right. Now, any questions with what we've read so far? So you know civil laws, you know customary laws. I said that all the reading we are doing now will just be information we are giving you on those kinds of laws to help you. The substantive concern for the unit for critical thinking students like yourself is to know that these laws are normative. One of them is civil laws. What is that? Man-made laws that have done so and so and so and so and so, regulate behavior of citizens. So if you are a citizen of the nation, you know, you can do certain things within the state statutory, okay? There are civil laws that help us live an organized life in that state. It is normative. It means it's prescriptive. It shows you how things must be done, especially when you are doing commerce. Look at the left side. Your friend read it. I'm just highlighting. When you are looking at the taxes, you can't just be running whatever without paying taxes. There are taxes that govern how you should do your job. Constitutional statutes, land tenure regulations, okay, and stuff like that. All to your left. These are all civil law. And look at it. There are sanctions. So recently, some people were arrested for not taking the required taxes or giving some fake tax, whatever. Okay, we saw it on the TV. The sanctions attached are what makes them laws to be obeyed by all citizens. This is actual law. In other words, if you deviate from it, you will be forced to conform. That's all that the point is. When you violate it, you'll be forced to conform. And then they give you a typical example of that. Then now he just read customary law, another type, which is also what? Normative. So what we are studying is which one will we call normative, which one will we call statutory. That is law. We are not doing law proper, you see that, but we are using that to help you see the sense in which these are normative, unlike the one we have studied earlier, which is what? Empirical. That is all. Okay, so customary laws too, you can just think around it, look at that. If we are going for a barrier, there are taboos. If you don't go by what the traditional customary marriage thing, you don't go and do it, you may be forced to marry the dead girl. If you don't do the needful thing, she dies. The people will say, bath the dead body, give her water to the guy and let him drink. And a typical example, okay, just for you to see. So customary laws are also normative. That's what is down there. If it is our custom, I'm going to do my in-laws. Someone told me that you go and teach you this thing. And I'm not pleased at all with some of the things that have been done. You know, it's too, intricate or whatever. Well, but that's the custom. The person is dead, but if you look at the parade you do with things and all that, I mean, why? What kind of waste of time is that? Well, that's the custom. The spelling up there, though, has to be edited. See the spelling, the R there must be out. Okay. So I'm just giving you instances. You can go to a certain funeral dressed in a certain way. Some places they do white. That is how they do funerals. At other places, and in most places, I think, it's black or sometimes red. That's the custom. If you don't, sometimes the eyebrow, sometimes they'll ask you to do some rituals as a way of making you conform. Okay, and so on and so forth. If you were to stand before the paramount chief, like for his sub chiefs came before him, I'm told and I've learned that you have to remove the other chiefs have to push their cloth off their shoulder and show their bare whatever before they do, at least as a sign of whatever, before they want to put it on. You can't wear the same cloth, for example, with the paramount chief. You can't. If you went mistakenly to the event wearing it, so you have to quickly go inside and change. Your umbrella cannot be bigger than his. All these are plenty regulations, custom. All right. You know that the Spiritus prophetic anointed men of the prophet, sometimes their shoes have to go all the way up and rise to Aladdin's type. You know that. just to show the level of their anointing. They assumed. I'm trying to say things that teaching, just for you to get to do. Those ones may not be custom, but at least that's the way. It's nice. The shoe, the Bible has to be big and very pronounced. The suit has to be long all over to. Then it means that the anointing is there and all that. Well, this is customary. Take note. You are supposed to conform. If you don't, you will be shown how to do that. And I think I don't know if your friend has read this. Not yet. They are man-made. Some are man-made. Okay, they belong to particular communities or lineages, etc., etc. I just read that. If you are in Accra, there are times that they tell you, Alagbemi, the roads are closed. I'm not a Gan, but I've lived here for a while to be able to even speak it well. See what I say? Alagbemi, the road is blocked, sort of, or there is a ban on noise making. It's a custom, the way things have to be done for that period. You don't want to do it, well, get off and go to your hometown. You can feel free over there. So those are customs. They're also normative. They come with sanctions. Look at your screen. Cultural norms, social rules are the commonly adhered practices in the society that normally do not attract any severe form of punishment or sanction, but they are still what normative. Why? The punishment may not be severe, but what? There's a way. I told you, you can even use your eyebrows to show people that, hey, you to somebody's barrier. This young guy has died such a painful accidental death like that. You are here in white. You're not sensitive, cry. You will get someone who's support to even tell you, go and change your dress. This is your in-laws. Go and put direct on it and stuff like that. And you won't be arrested. Okay. So it is still enforceable, except that the level of enforcement is not the same for both. Okay, but it is enforceable. That is why it is normative. Remember what we said about normative, how things should be done or how things must be done compared to how things are done. They are not the same. One enforces it, the other one is only describing what is there. So the factual one, which we saw earlier, is only describing the let me use correct language, is this only describing the facts as it is, which could be different if we were doing what prescription of the values. So you read the moral, law, and co, unless someone has a question. I'll project alongside. We're almost done. This one, it's not a heavy content. So we are just looking at the normative versus the empirical to help you when we study unit 7, which is inductive reasoning in everyday science. The implications of that is what we will focus on more in unit 7. Any questions? I see 20 hands up. I don't know if all are questions. So if it is not a question,
Yes, please.
kindly put your hands down. Let me reduce the hands whilst I take the one who says yes, please. I think it is Kwejo Owusu. Kwejo, go ahead. Please hold on. Do you want to hijack my class? Kwejo, go ahead with your question if it's a question. Quickly. Whilst others are very good. The hands are 14 now. Some wanted to read. So please check and see if your hand went up. Bring it down if it's not a question. I'll take all the questions and then we'll do the second half. Kwejo, yours wasn't a question. You are reading now. Do you have a question? I see 12 hands now. Please lower your hand if it's not to read, please. Let's check your hand. Your hand is up. If it's not to read, if it's a question, then put it down so that I take those who have questions. Very good. Felix Queno, your hand is up. Prosper, Joseph Arthur, Benjamin Lati, Comfort Free, Osei, also Free, Zazi, all of you, if they are not questions, respectfully put them down so I can know clearly who are asking questions and deal with them. All 12 are questions. Are you saying that? Tariq Inusa, are you here to ask a question? Philip,
yes,
is this a question? Okay, let's take Tariq first. Go ahead.
Yeah. Madam, you see, like from what you said earlier concerning the customary marriage, the customary law and the civil law, I wanted to ask, see what has been going on in the foreign country, the LGBTQ plus, that those things that they are doing. I wanted to ask, is it against like both the customary and the civil laws?
See what we read there. We said the customs are for a specific group of people. Customs. They are customary. There are people who, I buried my daddy recently. We didn't do all these intricate things that I have to do with my in-law. See, for example, I'm giving you, we don't do all those things, but other people do it that way. I just showed you that chiefs that when you go before, you don't have to remove, you can have your palanquin and another person, but others have it different. So these are customs. There are periods that when we are burying so and so person, we say the whole nation, the whole, region or ethnic group of that traditional area, I should say, should wear black. Hey, daddy, I'm doing my wedding cry. Well, then postpone your wedding because that is what we are doing. We are burying our grandmother or something, the chief's mother or the chief's uncle. Some people were even whipped with the king. They went to do research there and they were wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Mistakenly, they entered that doing their research. Excuse me, I don't know if there was instructions from the traditional authority that we are having morning so and so and so, so everyone should be in black. People went in their t-shirt and they were lashed at the station and they entered their hotel and came back with their research. I'm just giving you instances. That's the tradition for those people. It cannot be a generic thing. It's different from, something that is for the whole state. So transfer that same idea to whichever group of people are doing that. Remember, there are certain states that do Sharia. I don't know if it's still there now. Okay. So if you went there and you behaved in a certain way, you will be punished that way. Don't go and bring your. Do you remember Qatar? People wanted to go and show something there. Qatarian said no. We allow you to go through, but within the remits of our respect, our customary, or if you like, our nation's laws. And so if you felt that you can't subscribe to what they do, then you go to Rome, you would have to do what the Romans do, sort of. If you can, then don't come there. They didn't say it explicitly, but we had the whole World Cup and we think that there were less of whatever others might find abominable there. Okay, so there are statutory laws, there are human, even your book doesn't touch on human rights and stuff like that. Those ones may transcend cultures and territorial boundaries and whatever. That's how you should interpret some of these concepts when they come up. I hope that helps. Let's take a second and a third, then we can go through the others quickly. Philip, ask your question. Philip, ask your question. Okay, Philip, are you there? I don't want to, maybe the network, so go ahead.
Hello.
I can hear you, Philip. Go ahead.
Okay, are those laws, they supersede human rights? Or do they have limits?
Which law is this, please? Please, which one are you asking if they have a limit? My friend, are you there?
Oh.
Philip, which
Hello.
law are you asking if they have a limit?
The moral law.
You're asking if they do what? They have a limit?
Yeah, do they supersede the human rights?
It depends on what you call a moral law, because I do philosophy. I'm an ethicist. I ask questions like that. And I know that it's contentious when you are discussing what is the moral, the moral law. It's contentious. Okay, because of what I know, I don't want to say straight is this or that. But when you confine morality to a specific group, okay, so that what is morally acceptable to say, typical Asante, for example, there are certain things you cannot do. But for another group, it will be okay. So you can take it also to the religious perspective. What is acceptable within a specific religion as moral may not be in another. One religion may embrace, polygamy. One man, 3 wives or 7 wives, something like that. Another one will frown on it heavily with anger, because you can't service all the ladies, not only in the way you are thinking about it, but even emotionally. Can you manage one woman? Then you want to go and get 3 or 5 emotionally. Small in my head, my this, one woman cry, you can't stand. Then you go for 3 or 4. But another one embraces that because they don't see anything wrong with that, and so on and so forth. So depending on which connotation of moral that you are, that's why when I'm distinguishing moral value judgment from non-moral, sometimes it is a bit difficult because I understand morality can be multifaceted. Maybe you should read what my colleague put in his slide here. Let's see what he says on that, and then we can tweak it to capture that. Go ahead, say. Say who has the question. Read what is on your screen. You have some 15 minutes or so to begin.
A general rule of right living, especially such as a rule of group of rules, conceived, a universal and unchanging, and a living. Okay.
Boss, read that thing again so that you don't get confused. Are you there? Whose network is fine? Read for Philip so that we can get a grip of what was being said. Go ahead.
General
A general rule of right living,
A ge-
especially such a rule or group of rules conceived as universal and unchanging and as having the sanction of God's will, of conscience, of man's moral nature, or of natural justice as revealed to human reason.
Very good.
Morally good law as
General rule
cultural
of
norm.
right living for groups.
Please let the lady read
No
it.
way to
Everybody, let the lady read. Go ahead. Morally good law,
not seem as cultural norm. There will be no way to criticize any cultural norm as being immoral.
very
Morally
good.
good law not seen as being legal. Then there would have been no way to challenge apartheid law on moral grounds.
Very
Moral
good.
laws are premium universal, transcending one's culture, religion, constitution, or society.
Very good. So look at the point. Thank you so much, my lady. The point being made here is the conception of morality being used here is the one that transcends, take note, culture, supposedly religion, constitution, or society. In other words, the thought here is morality conceived as what? Rightness or wrongness beyond any context, beyond any specific territorial space. This is a special thinking of how you want to conceptualize with morality, so that it is like what we appeal to as a nation to revise our laws. What would we appeal to as a religion to change from thinking of the television as a devil's box to thinking of it as an outlet? And so you have to manage what you want to see on it. That's what is important. The religious positions that change appeal to some higher ethic of good and bad. This is the sense in which the moral law is being used here. But it is not necessarily the only way of thinking of the term moral. In fact, then ethics will be higher. See, ethical will be higher because that one looks at the concept of good and bad. The moral oftentimes has a certain local kind of coloration, except the speaker or the author is appealing to morality in the bigger sense of it. To think of that as ethical, not moral. Moral then has some kind of sharedness. So then it will be within a certain context. Now, so therefore, to clarify, without doing a lot of philosophy, the author tells you I'm distinguishing a moral law, the good one, from cultural norms. So it's not something that is prescribed necessarily by a culture, because cultures do change. There are internal revisions in our culture, and maybe in the past we would have done human sacrifice to ensure that we get a good harvest. Perhaps now, after internal examination and critical evaluation, we don't want to do that again. Okay. So the point being made there on the second line is there wouldn't have been a way to criticize our cultural norms if morality here is equal to what our cultures define. Okay. In other words, moral law here is outside, beyond what cultural norms. That's the first, pointer the author wants you to take note of. Then moral could also be thought of as legal, but not necessarily so, because there are certain laws that I'm going to actually, I suspect that I can do a question on that, so I think around it. Sometimes the law permits it, but the thing is not moral. Like killing in self-defense. You see, who should sit down for someone to come and kill them? You were trying to rape me, I've killed my mother, but God forbid. And you are coming to rape me, or I get a big club and I hit your head, boom. God forbid, and you die. It might be manslaughter if you're able to establish that this is what he was going to do to me. After finishing all the people that are dear to me, he was nearly going to do this. So the only time I got and laid hands on was the club, and I hit his head, Panyai. He became obituary. Perhaps acceptable legally, but morally you have still killed. You see, so is it right? Even though you have killed, it might be justifiable, but is it right morally? Okay. Now take note, the law permitted, apartheid. The law permitted, what's the other one? The killing of Jews then in Hitler's Germany. Those of you who have followed that discussion, you know, it was legal to the extent that if you even wanted to shield someone who was a known Jew, you could have issues with the law rather. So the law permitted that, but was it moral? My philosophy students amongst you, if we get to level 300 with us, we'll discuss stuff like that, okay, on the morality of that. So here again, the second pointer here is telling you that a morally good law is not the same as what? A legal. Legal is from the word law, okay? It can be legal and yet not moral. So moral, think of moral here as not right. It can be legal, but yet not right. That's the second point. Then the third point is the moral laws are presumed to be, there we go, universal. So this is the connotation of morality here the speaker has in mind. Universal, it transcends culture, religion, constitution, or society. That sense of the word moral then, if you were doing proper philosophical analysis and we were speaking, would rather want to use ethical than moral, okay? So that moral codes would oftentimes be restricted to specific. But when we want to use it in place of ethics, the ethical, then we will be saying that it transcends all localization, all contextualization, cultures, religion, regions, what have you. All of those don't matter. Look at some examples on your screen. It is morally wrong to steal. The supposition is that this is true for all places, all times, regardless of persons, epochs. It's universal. You can't make stealing a universal law anywhere. People will steal, yes, but can that be the norm, the value, how we want to live? We live in a society where we are allowed to steal. It's part of what we cherish. And as part, we consider worthwhile. No. What about the second one? It is wrong to kill. This has to be acceptable everywhere that there is an existing and functioning human society. This is Kwame Gyekye's argument. I just recounted like that. Don't give me the credit. If the society continues to exist at all, then the presupposition is that there are certain fundamental beliefs that that society must already hold on to. If they don't hold on to those things, the society won't even continue existing. Like stealing can't be the norm. Like killing, if killing were the norm, the society won't even exist to be different. Okay, so the fact that it exists at all means it already has to hold on to certain values. And so all societies that are already existing would have to say that stealing is not acceptable, it's wrong. They would have to say that killing, indiscriminate killing, I mean, I'm just killing for the fun of it, that can't be acceptable anywhere. Don't say, oh, people are different. So they can't be so different as to endorse indiscriminate killing. Because if they did, that society will cease to, there will be only one man living there after he has killed every other person. You see, that's the point. Then 3, it is morally right to respect other people's views. You see, if we didn't respect other people's views, then even that is a bit cool. But the first 2, yes, to legalize segregation is morally wrong. Okay, now these second 2 are not exactly, I said because of my strength in this area, I wouldn't consider them exactly as universalizable laws. Some may say no, and it will work, but for wrong, killing someone indiscriminately or endorsing stealing or lying, let's look at lying. How would you build any society around that where we value lying? Who will come to school when the lecturer can say that, oh, the answer is A, B, and C, and then the exam you will mark it the opposite? Then why do you come to school? Someone will come for your daughter and son that they are going to marry, oh, for better, for worse. When we endorse lying, it means I'm saying that for better, for worse, but I am allowed to go and do the opposite because we lie. We value lying. Which society will do that? contracts. Who enter into contract with who? Because we accept less lie. So when I say right, this like IMFG, okay, oh, don't worry, we'll pay back in 2 months' time. The society says we are liars and we value lying. 2 months and we'll pay back. Who agree? When I know that society you endorse lying. Okay, so it cannot be a value anywhere. That's why it will be universally applicable and then can constitute what has been labeled as moral laws. I think I went beyond the content crime, said other things. What should you know? Whether moral understood as contextualized or moral understood as universalized, it is still normative either way. Meaning what? You cannot deviate. So if you deviate, it will force you to conform. Unlike empirical laws, where when there is deviation, we do not conform, we do not force, say, the child who has been born prior to 9 months. We don't say you can't be born. You have to wait till 9 months, otherwise you break the law of biology. No, we don't force the child. We will bring the child out at the 7th month when he or she wants to come and give the child another name, say that this is a premature baby or a preterm baby. And then go and revise our law that says all pregnancies last 9 months and say that we thought we knew it that way. Now it has changed. We thought a sickle cell patient will not live beyond 18 years. Well, now we have 60 something. They live a normal life. Insofar as so and so and so and so is put in place. That way, science is progressing. So what? So empirical study, natural laws allow for exceptions. Why? Because all this while they have been predictions. They are just informed predictions. And so if it fails out there, you revise the law and progress and keep searching and searching. Any other question? I have 10 minutes to go. We are done. The rest are quotations that the instructor is giving you for your reflection. So I'll take 2 questions. Benjamin Latte, is there a question? Ask, please. If Ben is not a question, Isaac, when the person come. Isaac, ask your question.
I wanted to ask whether there are laws that fall between 2 types, as in a law falling between maybe natural laws and at the same time.
I won't be surprised at all. I won't be surprised at all. There will be 1,001 because every law will itself evolve from another. Please see that. So your civil laws may fall within statutory laws, and then the customary laws may fall within another. That one is not an issue at all. Okay, laws are regulations, so there should be, and there can be several of such. Okay, Mohammed Salifo, you Isaac, thank you. Mohammed, go ahead.
Theories as empirical laws.
Mohammed, ask again. I missed the first part.
I said, can we classify theories as empirical laws?
It depends on which kind of theory, because it could be a mathematical theory, and that is not empirical. That's normative. In math, whenever you add 2 to 3, it has to give you 5. That is what I've just said. It's a law. Okay, and it is mathematical, and you cannot have your own addition formula where 2 and 3 becomes 1,000. Not in mathematics. Okay, so it is a theory, but it's a normative one. It's not an empirical one. That's an example. If you saw, I'm projecting Martin Luther King's reflection on one connotation of the word law he has. Okay, it's just for reflection. They are not in a. On your screen now, you see France's own. Anatole France talks about law. It's quotation. You should just read them and reflect. This is Dorothy Sayers' own. I projected that whilst I take 2 more questions. I think we are done. Let's take Manga Suweba. Go ahead, Manga.
Madam, please, I wanted to ask if, for instance, things that are not scientific truths, can they be like this empirical truths?
Auntie, what's the question? Manga, what's the question? Empirical truth has done what? You are muted. Manga, you are muted. Sueba. You are muted, oh, my lady. Oh. Let's take also free here. If it's a question, quickly. Christodia, ask your question, please. Christodia. All right, so let me project the next slide and see. I don't know what went wrong. There's an universal moral law as distinct from a moral code, which consists of certain statements of fact about the nature of man, and by behaving in conformity with which man may enjoy his true freedom, quote and unquote. These are all quotes that you should just reflect on, showing you. I mean, that's what my colleague put there. They're just reflections, nothing much. Then the logical laws, okay, laws of logic. They show you how you should reason, rules that should guide how you are reasoning. So if you say A and you add B, look at if you study, then you will pass. And if you pass, then you will travel, for example. Then it means if you study, then you will travel. That's the logic of it, the reasoning pattern. You can't say that if you study, then you will pass. And if you pass, then you will travel. Then I tell my colleague that then what you are saying means that if I study, then I'll travel. You say no. That's hypothetical syllogism. If it is true that all birds fly, and if it were true that Nancy is a bird, there has to follow, therefore, that Nancy flies. The logic of it. This one is not by choice. You can't have your own version. If you don't want to follow it, we'll let you conform. It is how you must reason. You should reason, not how we reason. Okay. The same with mathematical laws, like the example I give. They're also normative. The concepts that guide mathematics are not for you. Addition, subtraction, multiplication. You don't have your own interpretation of it. Remember, well-definedness, they are there now. Okay. So the laws that find themselves in logic, mathematics, and all the others we have been engaging so far are all normative, except the scientific law or the empirical law. That is all that you should pick. Look at divine law. Typically normative. The laws that are binding on us religiously, whether it is Sharia law or Christian 10 Commandments or the law of grace, loving people or what have you. People think that New Testament has no law. That is the strictest law you can ever have. But because it looks like it's unwritten, people don't know. They think that grace means no regulation. The law of grace is even stricter, telling you when they slap your left, you add the right to for them to slap on top, literally and figuratively. Okay, it's very strict. You give not a tenth, you give your all. That's what the law of grace is. So I'm just giving instances. The 10 Commandments clearly laid. So you know that if they give me here, let me calculate my 10% and go and give. The law of grace, you can give everything you have because you were led to and come home with nothing, trusting that God will take care of you. Divine law. End of session. Finito. What should you pick? If you go to my one slide that I often give on this one, distinguish what is the norm from what is what. And if you know what is factual, then you know normative. And sometimes the normative is also what is defined to be the case. You'll see in the near future when we do deduction and induction. I'm so done. I see 8 hands up. Clement, ask your question. Okay, Clement doesn't have a question. Prosper, ask your question. No, you have been disabled. You are making noise, I think. Zazi Adobia, ask your question. You don't ask, but I disable your mic. That's what I'm doing. Zazi Adobia. Okay, you are not ready. Mo, I didn't ask your question. You have already unmuted your mic. I don't even know why I have not disabled your mic.
Madam,
Yes,
please, per what I've heard, in the olden days, right, there existed some customs that were true. Like,
currently
example.
today, my brother, there are still current customary laws, unless your question is on the olden days one. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just reflecting it on the empirical statement. So some customs, example, like in the olden days, they said if you go to the farm on Sundays, maybe you see this or this will happen to you.
They still keep to it. So it's not olden days, cry. We all keep to it. Tuesdays are not for fishing. Yes, please. What is the pen? They are not just statements. You see, not sorry, they are not just empirical statements. They are the laws. We are dealing with laws, regularities, not just statements like it is raining outside. That's an empirical statement. But I'm talking about laws. We are describing patterns that we've seen over and over and over again. So when we say whenever women get pregnant, they deliver in 9 months' time. I'm speaking irregularity. So I'm capturing a law. Which one? An empirical. Why?
But you said customary. But you said customary laws are normative.
All the other laws, they are normative, except the scientific ones. Yes. So
Okay. And I'm saying that. As for example, what I said, that if you go to the farm on Sundays, you will see this. And they said it is happening. And they see when people go on Sundays, they see the thing. So is it not something that is happening? Can't it be
what
empirical?
Is the law
like
of it?
It's a fact.
I get you, but what is the law? You haven't stated a law. When you say when you go to the farm on Tuesdays, or the fishing on Tuesday, you go and see that is not the law. What does the law say? Whoever goes to the days on so and so day will do so and so and so. That's the law of it. They are stating the law. And so if
we are
you
focusing
like
on
whoever gets pregnant delivers in 9 months, that's empirical law. Whoever goes to the farm on Tuesdays or goes galamseying at the so and so place will see Nana Kukufu standing there. And so the one who doesn't listen and goes, whoever wears so and so to the funeral ground has abused the ghost and stuff like that. That is the one that is enforceable. You go and do it, we enforce it. We enforce it. There's a way of checking you to obey. So you have to state it as a law. All right, Mandy. I think I got you. We're trying to show whether it is natural or value. Yeah.
In that case, it becomes.
Well, in that case, it becomes what?
I'm asking. In that case, it becomes. But per what you said.
Are you asking me to fill in the gap, or you are filling your gap yourself?
Yes,
yes, you fill in that gap. Okay. So I think that we are done. The others have been disabled. Thank you so much. Ekite, Ira,
thank you.
Take note. You are welcome. Take note of the normative versus the empirical. That is what is crucial. All the types of laws that. Thank you, Mohammed, too. Thank you. I see you clapping. Hey, you are very excited. Why are you? Okay, that's Mohammed. You. Later on, God willing, next week, we will go into substantive unit 6, deduction versus induction. I plan to project my own slides there for the whole course groups so that we can have a sequence. That one will be done in 2 weeks, and then you'll be preparing for your interim assessment. But it's likely by close of day today, I'll open assessment 2 for all of you on all the groups so that you will be done with your 2 assessments that you have to have. I wish you well. All the best. Take care.
Madam.
Brian, I won't add 1 second prior to the time. What is the
Madam.
issue? You sit there and say, Madam, I'm closing the thing. Can in time say it quickly? That's the issue.
I wanted to ask a question, but it didn't mention my name. I raised my hand.
How will I mention everybody's name? Instead of asking, you are fighting. I said, ask. The time is up.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Go ahead. The time will finish. When the time finishes, I will close the thing. Go on.
We looked at logic law.
What has it done? You are not asking a question.
When we're looking at logic law, you said let's say they give an example that if you
brother, I know what I said. My dear friend, I know what I said. I want you to ask me a question.
Okay, my question is, can logic law sometimes be debunked, or like can they have?
Why not?
Like,
yes, they can. If you are not, you can. You can. If the analysis, like you can, by the language of it, tell whether the person is reasoning validly or invalid. That's what our unit 6, 7, and unit 6 profile is going to engage. Okay, we're going to look at, please, let the gentleman. We are going to look at how to assess people's reasoning logically. Okay, we are going to look at it. So you see that we'll learn validity, cogency, soundness, what have you. That will be looking at the logic, people's reasoning, not just the content. Okay, so we'll look at that. But yes, we can debunk logical reasoning. If the people are reasoning by the logic of it, that simply means by the language of it. Doesn't mean it is perfect. Sometimes that reasoning is sick, and we'll do that together.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, too, sir. Thank you all. Wonderful. Take care.
You're welcome.
Take care too, madam.
Thank you, everyone. I'll pull out the recording and then we end the session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my
Have a
lady.
nice
Thank you. You too.
Aw.
Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Ma.
Bye.
Love you, madam.